Hello and welcome to Streamtabulous. So I've been a little bit under the weather, and this is one video that I've been wanting to try to get out quickly. So I'm actually doing it at night time, which is unusual. And if I'm a little bit off, it's because a lot of pain at the moment. But I want to get over to OneTrainer and get up the new settings that I've got, where you can train a Lora SDXL on an 8 gig RTX system. So RT, this is for RTXs, in under 2 hours, and I've got it down to about 1 hour is where I'm sitting at to 1.5 hours with these settings. So we'll get over to the intro and then we'll get on with it. So, been a little bit under the weather. I'm going to speed run through this. I haven't even set that up properly, so we'll move that over. Right. So, straight away, you want to come in. I will put in the links the download to the SDXL Streamtabulous Lora 8 AW8, and then you can just click on that and it'll open up. So, of course, redirect your directories to where your files are, so it should be pretty easy. You should just be able to say C drive, workspace, run, so forth. Come down. We've talked about this in the prior two videos, which I still recommend on watching. They are handy and I cover a lot in them, and this one I'm just speed running through it. I mean, you can choose whichever base you want to train with. I am training with the SDXL base because it covers a lot of varieties through it. So we have everything set up. We'll move through. We can see the training data and what is different with this one, and I'll try to explain this as briefly as possible. We're using the Adam West 8-bit for the optimizer. Now, I will also have links for the doctor that talks about setting up Koya, and he's used this optimized for what he calls fine tuning. I will put up his settings as well and a link to his video. Now, I tried his settings, and over 200 epochs, which ran for quite some time. Actually, it was, considering it was 200 epochs, it actually completed in around about 3.5 hours, which is exceptionally fast. But every single one of the samples did not change all the way through. So I believe that perhaps there is an issue with the way that optimizer works if it bleeds over into your system RAM. So let's talk about that. So Adam West 8-bit and Adam West. Now, we're using Adam West before, which is a memory hog. Now, 8-bit came out later on, which, I mean, as it is, it's 8-bit, so 8-bit color, 8-bit coding, so forth. Now, that isn't a problem because everything that you're rendering now, and if you're using Krita, if you have a look at the image, you'll notice it's only 8-bit anyway. So I don't see any difference in the quality of the image. You don't lose any. And the beauty with the Adam West is you don't have to worry about the steps, because Adam West was designed to auto do the steps, so you don't have to go in and worry about configuring that and calculating, well, how many steps am I going to need to train this image to get a good result. It's pretty much automatic at doing it, and you'll see that when you go through and actually put your concept in, put your images in. You put 100 images in, and you might see it only doing 40 steps, and you put something like 30 images in, and you'll see it go up to about 100 steps without actually adjusting the steps under concepts. So I've tested this twice. I ran it with the 50 epochs, and I believe that took over 3 hours on the 50 epochs. And actually, it might have been longer than it. It might have been about 4 hours or 5 hours. It's a few days ago. Like I said, I've been sick. I wanted to get this out earlier, but yeah, horrible. And as a result, some of the things that slipped in my head was the run times for that test. I remember the 50 epochs was more than double, so that would push it to about the 3 to 4 hour mark. Either way, what I noticed with it, and what's the most important part, is between 20 to 30 epochs, and then going from the 50 epochs from 30 to 50. At the 30 mark, it started regressing where the quality was actually going back to what the previous samples' outputs were. And I thought, okay, this is just, the cherry pick when it's doing the samples, it's rendering, and it's rendering bad images. Some of those renders are probably going to be really good. So I just let it finish its cycle. And then when I tested the model was really weak. And what I mean by that is the weight sets on it, you'd had to have higher, and it just wasn't getting the quality that the 30 epochs was. And there is such a thing as an overtrained model where suddenly that quality actually diminishes. So that's one of the beauties and one of the reasons people want the backup, which we'll talk about quickly, which is where every time it does 2 epoch, we've got it doing a backup and creating a Lora for that epoch that's done. So you can go back and pick out the best step. So coming back onto here, there's not a lot that's changed. You can have the text encoder on or off. I don't find it makes that much of a difference, but if you are having a problem with memory, you can turn it off. I can't remember what the Train Text Encoder does. Stable confusion, if you could leave a comment below and just let people know what the text encoder does, that'd be fantastic. I think it's when you've got images of words and it's creating that, but I'm not 100% certain. So yeah, stable confusion, leave a comment below, let people know what this is. Stable confusion's really queuey and helped me out with a couple things when it comes to the command line and getting the tensors running. So if you're having problems like that, leave comments below. I'd be interested to know what sort of, if people aren't getting the link to the tensor, which will slow down your training process as well, and you may see that error on the command line. Moving on, so resolution, we've set it up to 124, which is what most of SDXL is trained on. You can train it on lower, and you can train it on a lot higher, so you can keep that in mind. Depending on what you do, obviously we'll play with how long it actually takes to render your Lora. And there are people that train it at only an image of 768. So it's something to keep in mind as well. But if you're doing that, I mean, the SD 1.5 is I train those at 684, 680 mark. So you probably want to use an SD 1.5 if you're going lower. The whole point of SDXL is to have those better hands, that better training, and higher images. So, can't remember much what I did the changings on this. I don't think there was too much to it. It was more the epochs. I think I changed the batch that was on 4. I dropped it down to 2, which just saves a little bit of memory time. And the warm-up rate I left at 200. I have tried it on 100. Didn't see much of a difference there. Probably because Adam West gets into it pretty quickly with working out its steps. So, let's move over. So, adding our concept. So, quickly, I'm just going to add a concept. And what I'll do... Okay, so I've opened up the concept, and we'll have a run-through here. So, training good old animal from the Muppets. So I've gone through and I've picked images, and yes, scraped the internet, which a lot of people are going to hate. So this is what I've got for it that I was able to find. Some of them are based on the physical toy, so they're the toy, but they still have a generalization of the character, and when the AI goes through, it's not copying these images, it's looking at it and trying to work out how to create this character, and in doing so, it meshes. So as long as there's a representation of that figure there, these images work fine. Something to keep in mind is the image sizes. So if we can just get that up. So we'll come through and we can see the image size here. Now I've gone for all image sizes which are 124 and greater. A lot of people say to go 768 and don't exceed 1300. Don't worry about that. Ignore them. I'm not sure why they say that. They seem to think that the data set will damage the actual training of the model. But it is adaptive, meaning it will go through and actually work out how to do the image anyway. And I've never had a problem with SD 1.5 training on bigger images than what was suggested. I was training my SD 1.5s at resolutions which you would see in the SDXLs, because I wanted that greater clarity and that better quality, where when you zoomed in you could see more details. So, you know, the only thing you want to keep in mind is if you are having some problems with your RAM and you're finding the times are higher, then you can lower it and you can go to 768 and find your balance between it. But just keep in mind that a nice big picture is better for quality. You may need to go through in something like Crider and resize each one of them, maybe adjust the sharpness a little, or if you've got a batch converter or something like Gigapixel AI, which I have a very old version of and I use, you can drop all those images in and run it, which is what I've done, which means some of these images I have shrunk down as well. And we can see here that if we come through to the details, we can see all these images are in some way 1024. There might be a couple that are off, but generally they are all of that size. Okay. Once you've done that, if we go through and we just remove these text files here, so we'll get rid of that. So we'll go through and do by type. I'm going to remove these, delete, gone. Okay. Now naming these. I've noticed some people just leave them as the default name that they've taken with their digital camera. Don't do that. Bad idea. What you want to do is click Shift once you've highlighted all. So click, hold Shift down, click the top one, highlights them all. Right click on the first one, work from bottom to top, rename, put a 0 in there, press your enter button, and it will automatically go through and rename all these in order to your 79 photos. Okay. I think it's the same. We've got 40 items here, so the renaming didn't quite go well. Got one. There we go. So conflict with the previous name being on it. So we can go back on that now and we could rename that. So as long as it doesn't really matter, you can call it animal and just let it rename. You can do what you want. I just have a tendency to go for this sort of naming category here, and that works perfectly fine. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to come back across into OneTrainer. Now we're back into OneTrainer. We can add those concepts. So we can actually add a configuration here. It'll pop up with a name. And we can type in what we want and have it as a drop down in here as the me. Or we can just use concepts. For this one, I'm just going to use concepts. Click on here. We'll come up with this. We're going to point it to our path of our images. Okay, we've pointed it to the path of our images. We can call it animal. Okay, so we've called it animal Muppet, which we have here. We're going to go for all the texts from the images. So this is saying that for each image that there is a text. So from the text file per the sample. So it will be each of the images. You can have a single text that covers the whole thing. And you can have from the image file name. So it's entirely up to you. I just leave it on its default. This is the repeats down here, so you can adjust that. And as I discussed in the previous video, it's how to adjust those samples. But I'm finding we don't have to do that because the Adam West does its auto sampling anyway for its repeats. Come through, turn off cropping, flipping, and just leave it as is. And we can see when we come through, these images will stay as widescreen. It's not going to crop them. And we don't want them cropped because we want them to be universal Not like SDXL where it's 512 by 512, and that's what people are making images on. And when you try to make something on widescreen, suddenly it would have a hissy fit and you would get deformities and that. It is better to leave your images as they are and not crop them to give them that more versatility. So keep that in mind. Yeah, I mean, SD 1.5, same thing, don't crop them. And I've discussed that with the trainings. So once we're done there, we don't have to worry about this. Come through, we have our Muppet in there, we have our training, we have our sampling. This will all be set up when you download this and put it in. So for every epoch, we're kicking out one image. We put in our sample down here. So we'd actually want to type in what we're actually going to be calling it. So you could put in animal Muppet and just like standing under a tree. So put your key control words in here and we'll get to the key control words. So backup every 2, talked about that in the previous video. Data training set. For some reason, the people on OneTrainer on the GitHub seem to think that it doesn't actually have the ability to do text. Now, this is kind of important. I ran Queer to run W14 after updating the CUDA drivers or the CUDA files and updating the CUDA toolkit and updating Python. And Queer SS didn't like that. So it started uninstalling and installing its versions. And it broke OneTrainer to the point that OneTrainer was kicking out, you do not have permission to access this, denied. And it was so bad that even reinstalling it in that same directory, I couldn't run it. I had to actually put it in a different directory to run it. So Queer actually broke it. So keep that in mind. I would recommend moving over to OneTrainer and staying with OneTrainer. I think for my personal choice, I think Queer is just old news. It's not as intuitive to run. You've got everything in this. It's a lot easier and it's a lot more friendly on RAM, which is the big key for us. So I want to open our image directory. Now that we have our image directory open, we can see all our images running through here. Not a problem. So now all we've got to do is go to generate captions. It's going to bring up this little box right here. And for the word get-go, we're going to, first of all, render a WD14. We're going to come down to prefix, which is going to be our key control word for creating this. So we have our word animal Muppet. Now, what I've been told is this one here works for WD14, but the initial caption is needed for blip and blip 2. So for this, the first word in WD14 text will be whatever is here. So we want this to be our word. Then you're going to need to put the little apostrophe, which is the break between the way we prompt. And you're going to need a space. So you'll have animal underscore Muppet, the apostrophe, and a space. That way it enters into the text field properly. And then we just hit create caption. Now that is going to run in the background for a moment. And in this case, it's going to need to download models to actually create the text. So if we come over and have a look at that, we're going to see this is going to take a moment or two to download some things. And it's the same with blip and blip 2. They will need to download. Blip 2 requires a rather sizable file. I think it's about 10 gigs, between 5 and 10 gig. So it will take a bit of time. I was going to run those, but knowing that I haven't actually run them on this one, I'm not going to do that in this video just because I don't want to be up all night and I'm not in the best body-wise. So what can I tell you? Blip is the old school one. It's the way that we're used to prompting, where you type animal underscore Muppet and you'd put in your little comma and then you'd put red Muppet and then you'd put in a comma and you'd put standing on a skateboard, comma, and so forth to do your weights. Blip is more in the line with the way that we text prompt to do, say, meta, or if we're using something like Bing, and you're typing in red Muppet standing under a tree. So instead of, it's actually saying standing underneath a tree, so it understands that context of the word, where the old form it'd be you know, animal underscore Muppet apostrophe under apostrophe tree. So it's not like reading a book. So that's the difference between the two promptings. So now we can come through and have a look at this. So there's our Muppet. So we can come back through and we can just go by name. Now for each one of them, we have our text created and we can see that there. So it's describing our character. So this is what we get for our name for text prompt. Copyright name is obviously picking up on this here. So we can simply come through and take the time just to remove things that we want ignored. So you can actually come through and actually put in the word like this, animal, and you could put text. And then I believe with that text training, by doing it like this, it will actually understand what this is and relate it to the physical image for this. And then you could do another one, the Muppets, in the brackets again, and actually teach it. And we have the watermarks up there. Now, I'd probably recommend going through and removing all those. And it just makes it easier on the prompting and less prone to having things pop up later. In this case, I haven't really bothered with it. This one was one of my my test ones, so we can save that. So after we've done that, I'd actually recommend going through and running Blip. So I don't have it installed now, so I'm not going to do that. But I'd do Blip, and I'd even be considered to do Blip 2. And what that would do is when we open it up, underneath it, it would actually have a description of that character. And it'll probably say something like non-human, da-da-da-da. So you may need to go through and edit it. But it will describe the scene, and then it gives you both forms of prompt control for that specific Lora. So running both and having the text with both in there gives you more prompt control, because it gives you more languages that the AI model can actually read and understand. Because, of course, if someone's typing in a prompt, they don't necessarily know exactly what description you've got for what's in there. So what happens is the AI goes through and it looks at the paragraph, and if it matches up, it will use a part of that paragraph and maybe a part of another paragraph and build up the image. And again, having these in there as well as keywords, the AI knows what it's actually looking for with SDXL1. So it knows to go for those prompt controls as well. So it gives you more diversity to actually controlling your image. Now, SDXL3 is different because that was trained on a different model set. SDXL3, if you're wondering, apparently doesn't understand this, which is bad. But with SDXL1, it actually understands both, which is really interesting because people decided that they wanted to train their data sets on real-world wordings. What did that lose? It lost the ability to do more prompt control. So say this image here. So he's got orange shirt and he's got blue jeans on. So you could actually come in here and we've got that there. We could describe blue jeans and it's got short sleeve top, and we could put orange short sleeve top. So when you're doing the prompt control, if you put orange shirt, then the AI will go, okay, I know what that was because I learnt that when I was training it. I know what that looks like. So you can get prompt control. Orange shirt, blue jeans rather than just jeans or just shirt. So it gives you more control over what you're actually creating. When it is a data set of just a phrase, it'd have to be animal from the Muppets wearing an orange shirt and blue jeans holding a beer. And unless you're getting those prompting phrases correct when you're typing in, it's hard to control. So I do like this method of actually controlling AI. And I mean, if anyone's seen my images, I'm really fussy about prompt control, and I've been able to work it down to get really good prompt control. So have both. Blip and WD-14 is the shorthand of that. Okay. Once we've done that, we can close that. And we now have that, we can close that. So again, one of the things you want to do before you do your blip is you don't have to have anything in there because you already have your WD-14. And what you want to come down to when you're doing blip is add new line, because we have a text document already created. So you just do that and then run it, and it will create a new line under all that text. So we're not creating a new text file, we're adding to the existing text. It'd be nice to see an injection system where you had select from text file, where you could have a specific set of controls that injects in to add as a new line. I think that would be a fantastic feature, which would be really handy if you've got specific styles that you're training it with for all the images, and you know that AI scraping is just not going to cover a lot of it. It'd be nice to see. For blip, if you're not using WD-14, using blip by yourself, then you would have animal underscore Muppets in here, and then that would create that at the front of it. Because a blip needs something existing, and then it works from it. So it needs to create the text file with something first, and then it adds to it, is what I've been told. So now that's done, we can close it. And from there, we're set. We can literally just come back here, and we can start training. Okay, now while we're training, if we come into that folder that we created, so we'll just go back. So if we come down to the general, and we come down to this folder here that we created, so workspace run, inside there you're going to find a folder called samples. When we open that up, and this one obviously isn't named as that directory just due to the fact that it's on the lounge computer that I'm training with the 3060 8 gig, not on the GTX 1070. So these aren't in the correct directory, so forgive that, but this will give you an idea. So first of all, it's understood the word red Muppet, which was in the description. So I had the word animal red Muppet standing underneath a tree, something basic. Now it's automatically gone through and it's rendered up its image that it is going to base the rest of its renderings on as it's learning to try to recreate this particular image. So as we come through, and I've missed a couple here, so forgive me. We'll see that it takes a while. So these are epochs, so this is every epoch. So this is about epoch 3, I believe it was. And it's 4, 5, 6, 7. You start to see it starting to take shape of our character. And then as you move through it, you'll slowly start to see the image change. And what we're hoping is to see something that looks fairly like our character. Now, I would never expect it to be 100% perfect. It doesn't have to be. You'll generally get better results once you actually run it, because it's cherry-picked. Sometimes when it renders it, the next image could be worse than this image, which again is also why we have the backups, because you might want to go through and try epoch 19. So, and then 20. So 20 might not have actually trained as well as 19, but we know this went up to 30. And we keep going, and I let it run, and as we can see, some of them are really bad, but it's also trying to incorporate the different looks that it's actually doing. And we end up on that, and it's like, okay, well, that didn't look as well as 19, so which is here. But give it the benefit of the doubt. you're not always going to see the perfect sample. And now what I found, this is what I also mean by regression. What I found when I trained with 50 is it got good, and then it looked like it went bad, but then it went up to looking a little bit good, or rather in the terms of bad like that. And then it went up to sort of looking right, and I was expecting it to come back to that sort of tone and then get better from there. But what actually happened is it started looking like this again. So, and it was like that all the way through at the 50 mark. So that was about, I think it was like about 35 to 40, it started looking like that. And then it's sort of just stayed like that all the way through. So the 30 mark was the sweet spot. So let's come over to Civet AI. Okay, this is me on Civet AI. And this is the Lora here, nicely trained up. So we can actually see what I'm actually getting when I'm using the Lora that I've trained. So we're getting fantastic images. Okay. And we're mixing it with different themes. So I mixed it with my artwork painting theme here. A little bit gory. So you can get the gist of that. Not sure why that would say mature content. Certainly wasn't. Maybe it's something someone else posted. So you can see Stable Confusion here has actually tested it out. And we'll come down to here and I'll just point out a little something if he's left him in here. Okay, we have Elmo. So what was happening was for his prompt control here, and I don't know if he's got it in there. Doesn't have it. Okay, what was happening was he was using the wrong directory because with mine, I use the Lora double dot, and then I have SDXL / and then I've got my Loras / and then Animal Muppet. So he thought that whole thing was the name of the Lora. It's not. You can rename the Lora to anything you want. So my Lora, when you download it, will be called Lora Animal, or it's called Animal Muppet. So when you put your control in, if it's a control keyword, it looks like this here with the little arrows on the other side of it. Then it will have Lora, and then it will have the column, and then it will have the name of the file, which is Animal Muppet. And that's all that is. It's the name of the file. It's not the name of the text which exists inside the file. And for most cases, if you rename this file, and you can just call that AM, and you can just put that Lora in there, and it will just automatically know. It will pick it up and it will try to incorporate that in. The text is for fine control. So when we use the control words Animal Muppet, or even better, Animal Muppet Red Muppet, we get more control. So because we're describing the character on top of the Lora, so then it's using the keywords in there and it's able to generate more of the image better. So a lot of these ones are obviously the Lora will have Animal Muppet, and you can actually see them. I've actually shared these ones, so you'll actually see it. So it has the Lora link here, Animal Muppet, and then I break mine up into sets. So usually what I'll do is describe it, and I didn't do it with this one. But normally I'd break it after Muppet Show, and I'd have a separate line and have what the character is doing, because that's just easier for me to script and author the prompt like you would reading a book. So you've got your introduction of the character, break, what your character's doing, break, what the background and the environment is, and then I break, and then I add the controls of the Loras. So you can see here that I put in the character controls, and these are character controls that are in the text prompt. So Animal Muppet Solo, looking at viewer, smile, open mouth, teeth, detailed. And then the rest of it after that is just prompting to give it that, the build to what I'm actually looking for. So we can see here that we get fantastic results, and we can see here that being tested by Stable Confusion, that he's getting fantastic results and hilarious results at that. So that's simply it. So it's pretty quick and easy. There's not much to it. And once you've got your Lora created, just copy it from the Lora directory where it's been created. drop it into your Crity or Comfy folder or wherever it may be that your Loras are, and then you can get to using it. But yeah, the sweet spot is about 30, and on the RTX 3060 8GB, I am getting run times of this one kicked out in an hour. So I'm getting consistent run times between an hour to 2 hours. And I think that is absolutely sweet. Generally, it's kicking out in about an hour. I've done 3 Loras at the moment, or 4 Loras at the moment. One of them was the one that overtrained. So, just a quick one. As I said, if you need to know more about it, see the previous 2 videos where I go more to in-depth to help explain it. But overall, you guys out there, you just want to be downloading the file, putting it in, not worrying about anything, dropping your images in, and just training and just using, which I totally understand and I totally get, because you want less headaches and less hassles. So train up a Lora and link me to it. Get yourself a Civet AI. It's absolutely free. Just sign in with your, I think it's an email account, Gmail account, and away you go. You can start posting up on there, and I'd love to see what you guys create. Of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, get the bell on for notifications, leave a comment below. Have you moved over from Koya SS to OneTrainer? And I hope you have, because I think OneTrainer is just absolutely fantastic, especially with the render speeds. Something to keep in mind is, I think someone mentioned they've got the RTX 2060 on a laptop with 6GB of RAM. Okay, so this is important to know when you're rendering. Obviously, the speed of your RAM in your laptop or your PC will play a difference. All my systems are 3600s, so they're rather quick for how old the actual system is. So keep that in mind. The amount of data which is flood over to the RAM will affect it. So my bleed over on the 8GB card is 1.3 to 1.4 gig. So I'm only using 1.5 max of the actual RAM of the computer, and the rest of it is in the video graphics. Now, the more you have on your system, you may find it running a little bit slower because obviously the transfer back and forth. As I've pointed out in previous videos, and as I'll say again, my whole goal is to get you guys able to train it, but not at the point where these people with the 24GB plus cards are saying, oh, you know, you can't do it, it will take you weeks. And I've seen that with trying to run, I think it was Adam West on some really high settings, or one of the settings I went for was going to take 100 hours. I talked about that. So I've got this one down to an hour to 2 hours max with my system. With your system, it will, of course, vary. But the goal is for you guys to be able to put it on, go to bed, wake up in the morning, and have yourself a working Lora. Because that's productive time while you're sleeping. So I'll leave you guys to it. If you enjoyed the video and if you found it handy, like the video. Also leave a comment below for me. It'd really make me feel appreciated. And of course, I will see you in the next Streamtabulous video. Thank you for watching my video and sticking around to the end. If you like my videos, it'd really help me out if you could like and subscribe. It helps the YouTube algorithm to push my videos out there to more viewers, which in turn helps me and helps everyone. So thank you for watching my video and hanging around to the end, and I will see you in the next video.